This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Look, we all have insecurities. I think it's safe to say that everybody in one fashion or another has insecurities about things. I grew up a poor kid, so I have my own particular little hanging on insecurities surrounding that. But it seems to me that when you become president of the United States, a lot of that stuff really should, or you would think, it would melt away. Growing up colossally rich like Donald Trump, you would think some of those things wouldn't be there. And when you couple his crisis-like insecurity with his cruelty and his abject stupidity, it makes for a soup of terror. And we're dealing with that now as a nation. It's on us to deal with Donald Trump and his vast shortcomings. We, up until Friday, had been suffering through the press briefings, the coronavirus press briefings on a daily basis, led by Donald Trump, not led by Mike Pence, who is the administration's face. He's the lead for the coronavirus response from the federal government. We see Donald Trump because he can't stand having someone else have the spotlight, the limelight. Well, those briefings were canceled on Saturday and on Sunday, and then just a few minutes ago here on Monday, they were announced that they'd be canceled again. Not just that Donald Trump wouldn't be there, but that the briefing altogether is canceled. The scientists aren't going to be there, the doctors aren't going to be there, the experts aren't going to be there to brief the press, to let us know where we are in the middle of this pandemic as a nation. Because Donald Trump is not going to be there. They're canceled. He tweeted this on Saturday. What is the purpose of having White House news conferences when the lamestream media asks nothing but hostile questions and then refuses to report the truth or facts accurately? They get record ratings and the American people get nothing but fake news. Not worth the time or effort. Whiny, sniveling child, Donald Trump. So the rest of us suffer because he's afraid of the news media. Also, they get record ratings and the American people get nothing but fake news, and he's worried about their questions. Listen, just giving the data that is out there, let the American people decide. You're running these things live. What does it matter what questions the media asks? And that's not to say that they're asking hostile questions. They're asking probing questions. So anyway, I want to talk about this. The Washington Post just wrote an article. They broke down the numbers. And I want to give you some numbers about Donald Trump's press conferences. I'm going to read a few paragraphs from this article because it is stark. It really tells a story about where Donald Trump's priorities are, where Donald Trump's head is at throughout all of this. 2,000 people a day and more are dying from the coronavirus. And Donald Trump is worried about the press and tweeting about the Nobel Prize Committee. He means Nobel, but because he's so cripplingly stupid, he doesn't know how to spell Nobel Prize. He spells it Noble, N-O-B-L-E. So from the Washington Post, Trump has spoken for more than 28 hours in the 35 briefings held since March 16th, eating up 60% of the time that officials spoke, according to a Washington Post analysis of annotated transcripts. Over the past 3 weeks, the tally comes to more than 13 hours of Trump, including 2 hours spent on attacks and 45 minutes praising himself and his administration. But just 4.5 minutes expressing condolences for coronavirus victims. He spent twice as much time promoting an unproven anti-malarial drug that was the object of a Food and Drug Administration warning Friday. Trump also said something false or misleading in nearly a quarter of his prepared comments or answers to questions the analysis shows. 4.5 minutes spent toward giving condolences or expressing grief at the loss, the insane loss of life that we're suffering through right now. 4.5 minutes. But he attacks the media. He talks about what a great job he's doing, how wonderful he is. Me, look at me. It's about me. 4.5 minutes. This is not how it normally is. There's a common turn of phrase that the president has to sometimes be the consoler in chief. That is not what Donald Trump is or has ever been. Through the several calamities that have taken place, disasters that have taken place over the course of his term in office, when has he ever consoled anyone? When has he ever gone to the site of a hurricane or a tornado or the wildfires here in California and not use it as an opportunity to attack Democrats, to attack the media, to attack opponents? The closest thing we have to Donald Trump consoling is tossing up paper towel rolls like he's doing layups during the hurricane in Puerto Rico. Thousands of people died during that natural disaster. And he's throwing up paper towels. Remember that? This is how a president of the United States should behave during times of crisis. He should console the American people. He should comfort them. Even George W. Bush took this upon himself, this role as consoler-in-chief. Donald Trump, attacker-in-chief, deflector-in-chief. No, I don't take any responsibility at all.
Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that? And when can you guarantee that every single American who needs a test will be able to have a test? What's the date of that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all.
None of this is my fault. We've done a top-notch job. Continuing with the Washington Post, Trump has attacked someone in 113 out of 346 questions he has answered, or a third of his responses. He has also offered false or misleading information in nearly 25% of his remarks, and he has played videos praising himself and his administration's efforts 3 times, including one that was widely derided as campaign propaganda produced by White House aides at taxpayer expense. This is what we get. Vice President Pence, who heads the administration's coronavirus task force, holds second place in speaking time at the briefing since mid-March, about 5.5 hours, or roughly 12% of the total. He heads the coronavirus task force, not Donald Trump, but because of Donald Trump's crippling insecurity and whininess and sniveling nature, cowardice nature, he can't let Vice President Pence, who is also a dipshit, but he can't let him do the job that he appointed him to. It's not just Vice President Pence, though. The same kind of difference in the amount of time speaking goes for the medical professionals, the experts, the people we really should be listening to during this time. The medical professionals also received significantly less airtime than Trump. Deborah Birx, who oversees the administration's virus response, spoke close to 6 hours, while Anthony Fauci, an infectious disease expert, spoke for just over 2 hours at 22 of the briefings. And I would say that the reason that Birx is getting more time than Fauci is because she showers obsequious praise on Donald Trump. Oh, he understands the data. Donald Trump is very much into the numbers.
Well, I arrived on the scenes the 2nd of March, and I can tell you throughout those 7.5 weeks, every piece of data that we get to him, he looks at, he talks through, he asks questions, and he asks questions that shows that he understands the data.
None of that's true. But she's either buys into the fact that maybe she's a Trumper. I don't know. It seems like she wouldn't be. But she is certainly worried about losing her job. Just showering him with praise. Washington Post again. Since his campaign rallies, the president's portion of the daily briefings are rife with misinformation. Over the past 3 weeks, 87 of his comments or answers, a full 47 minutes, included factually inaccurate comments. This is one of the reasons why these briefings become more of a hindrance than they do a benefit to the American people. Because he gets up there and he touts anti-malarial drugs, rheumatoid arthritis drugs, lupus drugs, hydroxychloroquine, that is now the FDA is warning about using. But for weeks, he talked about it. He's also invested in those companies. A lot of his campaign donors are very heavily invested in those companies. The most frequent target of Trump's attacks during the briefings was Democrats, 48 times over roughly 30 minutes, including former President Barack Obama and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. His next favorite subjects for criticism were the media, 37 times over roughly 25 minutes, the nation's governors, 34 over 22 minutes, and China, or as Donald Trump would say, China, 31 times over nearly 21 minutes. These are the numbers, folks. This is what our money is getting. This is what we've done to ourselves by electing this incompetent boob to the highest and arguably the most important office in the land. Especially in a time like this when we need someone who is competent, capable, caring, concerned, consoling. Instead, on Sunday, we get his rant about the Nobel Prize because he is obsessed with the fact that Barack Obama was awarded a Nobel Prize, and he has not been. Donald Trump has not been, nor will he be. From his tweets, when will all of the quote-unquote reporters who have received Nobel Prizes for their work on Russia? Okay, first of all, reporters, journalists, media, they don't get Nobel Prizes. They certainly don't get Nobel Prizes because there's no such award. They get Pulitzer Prizes, Peabody's, different award, not Nobel Prizes. Certainly not Nobel Prizes. Over Russia, only to have been proved totally wrong. And in fact, it was the other side who committed the crimes. Be turning back their cherished Nobels so that they can be given to the real reporters and journalists who got it right. I can give the committee a very comprehensive list. When will the Nobel Committee demand the prizes back? Especially since they were gotten under fraud. The reporters and lamestream media knew the truth all along. Lawsuits should be brought against all, including the fake news organizations, to rectify this terrible injustice. For all of the great lawyers out there, do we have any takers? When will the Nobel Committee act? better be fast. Donald Trump is a moron, an unmitigated disaster of a human being. He's a garbage person. And he is the president of the United States in a time when we need someone desperately to lead. Someone to selflessly lead. Over 55,000 Americans have died as a result of coronavirus. 55 in 2 months. 2 months, 55,000 Americans have died. That number is going up by about 2,000 a day, roughly. Again, that is mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts and sisters and brothers and friends. These are humans with lives and families. It's not just a number. And instead, Donald Trump is whining about not getting a Nobel Prize. My wife is fond of saying, why are we being tortured? And it is true. When will this end? Hopefully January 2021, when a new president is inaugurated. And I hope that you'll do your part to help that be the case. I'm going to leave it there. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me. You can call me. Email me a voice memo. You could make your own little YouTube video and send it to me, and I could play your face and everything. Anyway, hate to be a bummer, but these times require the questions that need to be asked. So thank you very much. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Be genuine. Take care of one another, and I'll see you next time.